So I'd been waiting to start the channel until things were actually moving and progressing, and things finally are.
We saved for 3 years to afford the property, doing some pretty hardcore saving. And now, only 12 months after that, I think we're pretty close to having enough to move us out of our current place in Las Vegas, 9 hours north, to our new home in Golconda, Nevada. So, why now? We'd originally planned on the property being a semi-long-term goal. Each year, we'd pump some money into it, and over a few years, we would make it ready to live on, and then when we're good and ready, we would move out to the property. Then, just a few months ago, my contract ended, and Athena finally quit a job that she should have vacated years ago, in my opinion. It left us in a strange position. We could both find the next 9 to 5, spend the next 3 to 6 acclimating ourselves and making ourselves invaluable so when we worked remote, we wouldn't have to worry about being devalued, and slowly continue to work on the property as planned. But honestly, when we got to talking about it, at 45, I am fucking over making other people money. So we decided to do something kind of insane and pour everything we owned into making the move happen now. But just getting us there will be an accomplishment. There are 5 of us going from here to up there, with decades of belongings between us. Plus, we have to move what we'll be living in. And the property is basically wilderness right now, so infrastructure must be frustrated. And all of that needs to be coordinated so the property is ready before we're all homeless. But one fire at a time. Today we locked in our budget and breakdown, so let's talk about it. $160K is what we've been able to sell, save, and steal. And half of that shit isn't even in our pockets yet. We still gotta sell the house, and at a price high enough that we walk away with at least 80 grand. Now we've kept expectations reasonable, but if we don't get that full amount, it's gonna be real rough because the budget is already pretty tight. So with the somewhat hopeful assumption that we're gonna be getting all the money that we need, let's talk about how we're gonna be spending it. The first thing we got earmarked is $6 grand for the move. That's $6,000 for truck rentals, gas to get us there, and then getting us, our dogs, and everything we own out to the property. However, for right now, we're going to be storing the majority of our things in the nearby Winnemucca. We got a couple storage units out there, and we're going to be using those temporarily until we build or buy something more permanent on the property. You want to hear something kind of crazy, though? I have a storage unit currently in Las Vegas that's a 20 by 20. I pay $540 a month. For my 2 10 by 30s in Winnemucca, I pay $300 total. And we've actually made 2 trips already with our first truck rental. Truck, gas, lodging, and food ran us roughly $2,600. The next haul is expected to be an easier trip since we've moved all our big stuff, so I think we're going to hit the mark here. Next up is water and septic. Now I've budgeted $35,000 for this, but honestly this is the one I'm the most worried about. I think $10K for a septic is pretty reasonable, but a well varies so wildly in price. Online I've seen everything from $25 to $100 a foot, and a pump system is separate from that cost, and those can range from $2 to $6K. After the well and septic, our other must-have is a place to live. At first we've been eyeing used mobile homes, which can range from $10 to $40K depending on the size and age, but after finding out the cost to move it to our property would run an additional $20 to $40K, we abandoned the idea altogether. So we started looking at used RVs and found some great fifth wheels that were around $10 to $14K. But rather than dive right into looking at used, we wanted to get a frame of reference by looking at new RVs and seeing what they had to offer. So we headed to Camping World to check out what they had on site. Athena spotted this destination trailer, and we both kind of loved it. The large windows and spacious living area meant the place we'd be spending the most time in was going to feel nice and roomy. We plan on living in our starter place for about 3 years while we save for the forever home, and this thing felt perfect to live in for that length of time. So we pulled the trigger and bought it new. So the $25K that we had earmarked for purchasing something went towards the down payment, and between that and Athena's excellent credit, we got a great monthly at $600. Now the scary part is towing it up. It's 43 foot long and 13 foot high, and it's on a normal hitch. No fifth wheel attachment means that we need at least a 1-ton dually in order to tow this thing, and Athena and I have zero experience towing anything bigger than a U-Haul trailer, so it'll be an interesting move to say the least. All right, well, you watch Sabine. Let's talk about solar. To understand what kind of support we need, we started by looking at our average power consumption during the hellscape that is summer in Vegas. Our daily median during those months is near 60 kilowatt hours, which means two things. One, we consume way too much power currently, and we'll need to be more conscious of what's running day and night once we're on the property. And second, whatever system we do build out will need to have a decent amount of battery storage to ensure everyone's devices and doodads are usable. You know, going from Vegas to Golconda, I'm more concerned about having power over the winter months than the summer. It gets pretty cold there, and I have nightmares of headlines reading, "Idiot moves to the middle of nowhere, freezes to death with loved ones." So we have $25K budgeted for a solar setup. That gets us a setup with 30 plus hours of battery storage, something to house them in, a rack for the panels, and a backup generator to charge the batteries if we get a run of shit weather. But this chunk can kind of be cannibalized if we need to. Which brings us to our final must-have, leveling and road. And this is another best guess that I fear will ultimately destroy me. You see, our property has a lot to offer. It's got some breathtaking dramatic backdrops, 3 interlocking hills, an amazing rock formation, and a mountain-fed year-round creek. What it doesn't have is 1 acre of flat ground. We'd originally talked about flattening out the dual hill area we call Tita Hills and setting up our trailer there, but once we started looking at the costs of renting equipment, truck and transport, as well as learning how to use the stuff, well, between that and the timing of getting it done while living in Vegas became a logistical nightmare. So we redefined perfect and decided the Valley of Bones was our best bet for flattest area. But even that, as you can see in the video, has a very visible slope. So we budgeted $15K to flatten out part of the valley, at least enough to place our trailers on, as well as build some kind of entry road to drive onto. And our mantra here is, it doesn't have to be pretty, just functional. Once we're on the property, we can spend time beautifying and fortifying our living and working spaces. So this was going to be my live outro, but I'm still figuring out audio and how not to say every other word, so I'm just going to dub over the mistake because the shot's nice. So what's left are 2 chunks of the same goal, and while not intrinsically necessary, they are very important to Athena and I. We want to ensure a safe and successful migration, and these funds are paramount to that end. But before we get into the last breakdown, I want to talk a little bit about why we chose Nevada. Well, first, there's a couple reasons factually, and then a whole string of them for me personally. But let's start with facts. Land in Nevada is cheap. It is, in fact, one of the 3 cheapest states in the country, just behind New Mexico and just ahead of Arizona. Our 40-acre lot, $40,000. And Nevada land comes with the easiest zoning laws in the country. The second factual reason, 81% of Nevada is federally protected lands, which means the state's damn near empty. Our property sits against 2 480-acre plots of BLM land. There are 2 preserved lakes nearby, a locally stocked river to fish, and hundreds of acres of untouched wilds to explore. For anyone looking to Lord of the Rings it's perfect. You know, I was going to say Game of Thrones there, but those fuckers, man. I'm still mad. Anyway, that being said, we both love it here, and each time we visit our property, we fall in love with it just a little harder. But terraforming it into the wonderland that we both imagine is going to take money and time, which also happens to cost money. So $30,000 is marked for initial settling of the property. This includes things like building a deck, garden, and fencing in a yard so our smaller dogs don't become food for something else. It also includes things like buying trees, plants, and seeds for gardening, and hopefully a workshop for Athena and I. We're both creatives, and part of wanting so much space is so that we can finally start to do some of the projects that we've always dreamed of. So $30,000 to get us settled into the property with funding for just a few projects, leaving us with $24,000, which should buy us some of that time we were talking about. We did our monthly budgets a few years ago while saving to buy the property and discovered how much money was being wasted on everything from meal delivery to half-used subscriptions. But even when we scaled back all of the frivolity, we still had about $6,000 in monthly costs. But once we're on the property with a well, septic, and solar, our monthly costs dropped all the way down to just $1,700 a month all in. That's everything. That's food, internet, our phones, even that brand spanking new trailer we just bought. It's such a drastic difference that I joked with Athena that I would be happy working anywhere.
Welcome to Costco. I love you.
But we're both hoping it doesn't come to that. We'd love to be doing what we love to be doing while making money doing it. So $24,000 buys us 14 months of reaching for the sun while trying not to get burned. And that's it. After that, we're destitute. You know, I like to think of myself as a pragmatic nihilist, but who knows? Maybe this will work out. Actually, where does this go?
So the show's over. You're not going to want to watch this. It's going to be about some random thing only people who know me are going to really care about, and half of them are just being polite. Okay, I warned you. So I saw the new Mountain Dew logo in the wild today, and it seems to be the trend that all these logos are going fat with a PH. And the Mountain Dew logo is no exception. If you take a look at the box, it's like the logo's front and center. They've dialed back the background a little bit. It's still nice, but it's not as all over the place as the old designs were. And those old designs were great. They were just pretty loud. Have you seen the DC Absolute logos? Look at the PH on these things. Now, Wonder Woman's obviously the winner here, but Soups looks good, and you're gonna hate me for saying this, but I like the bat symbol. It's good. It's super reductive. You can still totally tell what it is. If I colored it pink and put it on a white background and showed that to you, you would still say, oh, that's the Batman logo. And it's adjacent to my all-time favorite Bat logo, which is the Frank Miller Batman Returns one. But back to the Dew. Their graphics design team has nailed it again. They've been killing it for years, just banger after banger after banger, and this new Fat logo is no exception. It harkens back to the old classic logo. They've spelt out Mountain instead of MTN, and it looks like a mixing of 70s style graphics design with the talent, mixed with modern talent. Sabine. Thank you. I know, you're a good girl. You're such a good girl. I know, good girl. I know it. I know. So I'll be on the lookout for some new merch. Oh, what? The can's the same. And, oh, how disappointing. It's the old cans. So, new packaging, old cans. Look, this is supposed to be the new can. You can see the redesign here. This is the old can with the old logo. These motherfuckers. I had this whole plan to do like a sexy close-up of the can, a nice little pour, and then in there, and it tastes like old Mountain Dew. I am owed a new Mountain Dew can.